Well, good morning. I'd like to call to order the Lee County Board of County Commissioners meeting for September 19th, 2023. I've got 9:31 this morning. This morning, let's rise for the invocation, and I'd like to call up Pastor David Friere from New Life Assembly. Pastor, good morning.
Good morning. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this morning. Thank you for a new day. With a new day comes new opportunities, new mercy, and new grace. God, thank you for every person in this room. Thank you for the loved ones and the families they represent. And Lord, thank you for the officials in this room today that have been entrusted with the responsibility of serving our community. In this moment, we pause to seek your wisdom and your guidance. We ask, O Lord, that you would grant us discernment today as choices are made that would reflect your justice, your compassion, and your love. As they deliberate today the matters before them, I pray that they would listen attentively to one another. They would engage in constructive dialogue, and that they would consider the needs of all those they serve. We also ask for your blessings upon our county, our state, and our great nation. Watch over every person, protect the vulnerable, and inspire unity amongst our diverse population. Heavenly Father, we acknowledge that all authority is given from you, and we accept the solemn duty to exercise it with integrity and humility. Guide us, we pray, so that every action may reflect your divine wisdom and grace. It's in your holy name we offer this prayer, trusting in your guidance. Amen.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. And now's also a good time, if you have a cell phone, to go ahead and flip it over to silent or vibrate mode. That'd be great. Let's begin this morning with our ceremonial presentations. We have a few of them this morning. I'm excited to see some folks. The first one, I'll recognize Commissioner Pendergrass for the South Fort Myers Youth Little League.
Great, thank you, Chairman. If I could have Howard Gold and we've got some players here this morning. Howard, y'all come up here to the podium. I'd like to recognize the South Fort Myers Little League, their accomplishments and their tests of patience this year. If you could just all just kind of line up right there next to the podium, and we got the whole team here. Coach Greenwell, you're going to help me out here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You this size?
Well, we'd like to go ahead and read the resolution of the record. The Board of County Commissioners resolution, whereas Hurricane Ian decimated Ruttenberg Park's fences, lights, as well as the South Fort Myers baseball dugouts, scoreboards, and championship signs from September 28, 2022. Canceling the fall season and jeopardizing the 2023 season. Whereas South Fort Myers Youth Baseball rebuilt dugouts, replaced scoreboards with volunteer labor and donated material, and held fundraisers to replace the 70 championship team signs that represent the league's proud 30-year history. Whereas schedules were issued during daylight hours only on Saturdays and Sundays, weekend evenings, or after daylight savings time. The league played 500 games in 5 divisions over 4 months with no field lights. And whereas all-star teams were formed, the 10-year-olds won the district tournament and played in the state tournament in Boca Raton, beating the Winter Park in thrilling extra inning game. The 12-year-olds lost an extra inning heartbreaker in the state tournament to Key West at competitors' home field. And whereas 11-year-olds won the district tournament unscored upon and swept the state tournament at Palm Beach Gardens to become the South Fort Myers 6th state champion. What a great year. Previous state champions have been claimed the years 2004, 2007, 2009, 2010, 2017. Now, therefore, it be resolved, the Board of County Commissioners, Lee County, Florida, does here congratulate the South Fort Myers youth baseball team on being the 2023 State of Florida champions, duly executed by our chairman. Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations, guys.
Howard, this is for you. These are for the rest of the team. We've got 25 there for the team, and thank you to all the parents and everything. If you go, we're going to get a quick picture here. I think the parents want to get a picture real quick.
Yeah,
The boys.
let's do that.
Great, thank you. Howard, would you like to speak, or would somebody else on your team like to speak?
Howard Gold, President, South Fort Myers Youth Baseball. The resolution pretty much said it all, but I would like to thank the commissioners for their commitment to youth sports in this county. Dave Harner, Jesse Lavender, and Mac Young for the work they've done on getting the lights replaced, hopefully in November, so we can have a normal season next year. And to Billy and the crew at Ruttenberg Park for the great job they do. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Howard.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you for your patience, and thank you to the parents and coaches for everything you do for the kids of the community. So again, thank you. A little history there. Howard here actually rebuilt this building in 1989, where he remodeled it 34 years ago. So
Half a lifetime ago, exactly.
great. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, guys. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Come on, guys, let's go downstairs.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Pendergrass.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to recognize the folks who are here with the Tony Lappy induction into the Tourism Hall of Fame. Tony, if you're here, and anybody who came to celebrate Tony, please come to the podium as I read this into the record. Tony, I know we're all here to support you. And just quickly, Tony got to be recognized at the Governor's Conference too, right? In a major celebration earlier this year. Well, it is my privilege, Tony, to recognize your service to our county and read this resolution into the record. It reads as follows. Whereas Tony began his career in the hospitality business in 1976 when he and his partners purchased property and a few small structures on a breathtaking site at Captiva's narrowest section that bridges both the Gulf and the Bay. Tony built the resort from the ground up, increasing the property's units from 47 to 137, along with purchasing 2 additional properties, Beachview Cottages and Castaways Beach to Bay, in 1979 and 1982 respectively. And whereas Tony Lappy is a dedicated leader, visionary, and industry mentor, having grown many staff into leadership positions in tourism, he enthusiastically promotes tourism and businesses in Florida, and he has been a trailblazer in many Southwest Florida tourism and business organizations. And whereas from 2004 to present, Tony has served on the Lee County Tourist Development Council, first as an ex officio member and then taking the voting slot in 2013. And Tony's dedicated, thoughtful leadership has helped grow our county into a premier destination of choice. And whereas Tony joined the Visit Florida Board of Directors in 2007 and served as the 2011 to 2012 chair of the board as Visit Florida chair, and the state saw back-to-back years of record visitation while he was chair. So congratulations on that, Chairman. Whereas Tony Lappy was recently inducted into Florida's Tourism Hall of Fame for his incredible impact on the tourism industry, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Lee County, Florida proclaims September 19th as Tony Lappy Day. We proclaim it as Tony Lappy Day in Lee County, and we acknowledge your generous contributions of both time and resources that have made a huge difference in our community, and your innovative entrepreneurial spirit that continues to inspire our tourism industry. I signed it this 19th day of September 2023, Tony Lappy Day. Congratulations, Tony. Tony, we'll take a picture with you real quick, and then if you could say a few words. Okay, perfect. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, perfect.
Very good. All right. And 1, 2, and 3. And one more.
Perfect.
Just to say a few words.
If you'll go to the mic, yeah.
Oh, does the mic work? Do I have to press a button or anything?
Nope.
It's just right there.
Just like that.
You know, I came here 48 years ago, and lucky enough, I fell into this wonderful industry of hospitality. And I can't thank the community enough for what they've done to support not just my properties, but all the islands, especially after Hurricane Ian. But, you know, I've been blessed to be a steward of a great property. It's on the historic register, the National Historic Register. And I got to thank all my employees who greet people and embrace the idea of hospitality. It's what makes, you know, our VCB and TDC go so well. It's a great community we all live in, and thank you all for that. Thanks very much.
Congratulations, Tony. At this time, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Greenwell for a special presentation.
Thanks, Chairman. Anybody from Rotary Club of Fort Myers East, come on up.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. The Board of County Commissioners resolution, whereas the Rotary Club of Fort Myers East was chartered on September 21st, 1973, as a member of the Rotary International, founded in Chicago, Illinois, on February 23rd, 1905. And whereas Rotary International remains a worldwide service organization consisting of dedicated members who share the passion for service and friendship in their community and around the world. And whereas the Rotary Club of Fort Myers East members are dedicated to helping those in need in their community with college scholarships, monetary donations to other nonprofit organizations, literacy projects, aid to senior citizens, Meals of Hope, hurricane relief projects, and many other community programs for 50 years. And whereas those Rotarians have also joined international humanitarian projects such as providing clean water and wells where needed and helping to eradicate polio worldwide. And whereas Rotarians continue to live by motto of service above self, which encourages high ethical standards, promoting peace and goodwill in the world, while providing humanitarian aid throughout the world. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Lee County, Florida, proclaim September 21st as Rotary Club of Fort Myers East Day in Lee County, and encourages citizens to pause and recognize the impact that members of service organizations like the Rotary Club provide to our families in Lee County, and encourage citizens to pause and recognize the impact that members of service organizations like the Rotary Club provide to our families, schools, and communities. Duly executed this 19th day of September 2023 by the Board of County Commissioners and Chairman Brian Hammond. Thank you. And who would like to take control of this? And you're going to speak for us? Thank you.
As a current serving president, on behalf of the members of Fort Myers East Rotary Club, I thank you for your recognition and provided your resolution today. I have with me today they abandoned me. I have with me today the original plaque presented to our club at the time of chartering. I also have listed on that plaque a list of members who were present and part of the club at our founding. And one of those members is still with us here today, and an active member of our club, as well as a past serving president and currently a serving director on our board, Mr. Andy Erickson. All of the names on that plaque are business, educators, and professional leaders from Fort Myers East area. The charter members and those who have come after them have been involved in numerous local community service projects, as well as international Rotary projects. Most notable of which is Rotary International's leadership in the near eradication of polio across the face of the earth. Some of the long-term local projects our club has provided to the community include annual scholarships to students graduating from Riverdale and Dunbar High Schools, recognition plaques for outstanding service of officers of the Lee County Sheriff's Department and the Fort Myers Police Department, support for the Lee County 4-H program, Future Farmers of America, leadership and active involvement in the Southwest Florida Fair grounds, training for Jossie Otter water safety programs, the Dictionary Day for bilingual students, U.S. Constitution Project, where we are providing 7th grade students their own copy of the Constitution as well as a program for guidance of the instruction module. Support for Riverdale High School Band, agricultural programs, Salvation Army bell ringer in place of paid employees, and many, many other projects in our area. The members of our club are committed to living our lives, acting according to the Rotary model of self above service. We look forward to providing another 50 years of community service to East Fort Myers area. Thank you again for your recognition and your resolution.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our ceremonial presentations this morning then. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the recap. On the recap this morning, County Administration is asking that we defer item A6 to October 3rd, 2023's board meeting. County Administration is also asking that we remove item C10 from the agenda. That would have been directing to public hearing an ordinance to repeal the ordinances regarding art in public spaces. And County Administration is also asking for revisions to item A4. They want to add an item to the motion there, which would authorize staff to make non-substantial amendments and administrative revisions to the CDBG-DR action plan as necessary or as directed by HUD, and also revise page 174 of the action plan to reflect the changes requested by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So do I have a motion to approve the recap? So we have that motion from Commissioner Pendergrass, second from Commissioner Sandelli. Do we have any discussion on that? All right. Would anybody like to speak in public comment on the recap items that I just read? Okay, I see no public comment. Back to the board. Any further discussion on the item? I see no further discussion. Are there any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. At this time, we'll take up the consent agenda. Commissioner Greenwald, do you have any items you'd like to pull?
I do not, Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Pendergrass?
None.
I have none. Commissioner Sandelli? Commissioner Ruane? Okay, no items have been pulled from the consent agenda for discussion. At this time, I'll take public comment on the consent agenda. I have one card from Stacy Ellis Hewitt from Banks Engineering, and then another card from Marcia Ellis. So Marcia will speak after.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Commissioners. Stacy Ellis Hewitt with Banks Engineering. I'm representing Homefront Heroes, Inc. this morning in regards to the Conservation 2020 nomination 629. They do own the property immediately adjacent to the north, and we just wanted to clarify, we do fully support the item on the agenda and Conservation 2020's acquisition of the property. We just wanted to make a slight clarification on the property rights of Homefront Heroes property. The exhibit in the agenda packet does correctly show a conservation easement on the property, but I just wanted to clarify the limiting nature of that conservation easement. It is a limited deed of conservation easement and covenant limiting watercraft slips on the site, and the sole purpose of it is to determine the number of slips per the manatee protection plan, and while retaining all other property rights. And I just wanted to make that clarification for the record. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your comment this morning. And our next comment is Marcia Ellis.
Good morning, Commissioners, public. Marcia Ellis for the record. I'm speaking about item 20, which is to approve the contract amendment for the landscape maintenance and mowing, adding almost $300,000 to this contract for mowing of the Civic Center. I've been following the Civic Center management over the past few months, and I feel like that there's been a bit of an underrepresentation in terms of the resources, the manpower, the funds that are necessary to actually to maintain the Civic Center. So I have some unanswered questions about the mowing, what the cost has been prior to this, if that's been accomplished on a volunteer basis of people pitching in to maintain the Civic Center. Are we missing an opportunity for civic engagement, and also opening up the bidding process on such a large amount to other vendors who may want to pursue this contract in good faith, because we are over the new $250,000 procurement number that was approved recently, I think as recently as the last Board of County Commissioners meeting. So I just wanted to bring that out and ask for clarification on that and just further explanation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. All right, does anybody else wish to speak on any consent agenda items? That would be C1 through C34. Just raise your hand if you'd like to speak on consent agenda. Okay, I see no hands, so we'll come back to the board. Does somebody?
Move the consent.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda from Commissioner Pendergrass and the seconds from Commissioner Greenwell. Do we have any discussion on any of that, Commissioners? Commissioner Ruane?
Just a comment for the record. You know, I've had the privilege of working with staff. Staff has reassured me we're going to talk about, obviously, the Civic Center. We'll have a workshop. We'll do whatever. I'm all in favor of making sure we maintain the property. And I think that's really good that we're doing that. And I look forward to a discussion amongst us on the workshop. But I approve this item.
Excellent.
If I could just add to this, so the
Commissioner
public
Pendergrass?
public's listening, we go through a procurement process in Lee County here, and the county commissioner's not involved with that. So any contract we approve like this, it does go out to a vendor process. And the vendors throughout the community and out of state actually apply for those, and they go through a competitive bid process. So there is competitive bids, and everybody's given an opportunity to do the work, and it comes through a committee, and it comes back to us as a contract. So there is engagement there. So just so everybody understands that that does happen in Lee County. Thank you.
Any further discussion or comments, Commissioners? All right, seeing none, are there any objections to the motion? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. All right, we'll take up the administrative agenda. Thank you very much. We'll take up the administrative agenda. Item number 1, Mr. Harner, please introduce the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is to approve and adopt FDOT PD&E study for Able Canal and select project alignment. I'd like to ask Mr. Clemens to present the item.
Morning, Commissioners. Robert Clemens, County Lands. This item is a request to select an alignment for an Able Canal linear path in Lehigh Acres. The item requests the board to approve and adopt the FDOT Project Development and Environmental Study, PD&E, for Able Canal and select a project alignment. The county previously entered into a local agency program, LAP agreement, with FDOT in 2020 for the development of this shared use path project. The specific project concerns shared use path and related appurtenance along the Able Canal and Lehigh Acres. The shared use path would extend from Harns Marsh to Joel Boulevard and would be approximately 6 miles in length. The project will improve pedestrian and bicycle accessibility to large residential developments, schools, and parks. FDOT previously conducted the PD&E study in an effort to determine the feasibility of developing a 12-foot wide shared use path along Able Canal. The PD&E study, the relevant portions of which are included in your backup materials, analyzed a no-build option as well as 4 separate build alternatives: north alignment, south alignment, hybrid alignment 1, and hybrid alignment 2. The PD&E study contemplated various factors including cost, environmental concerns, long-range area planning, and safety considerations. The analysis of the proposed alignment alternatives took these factors into consideration. The recommended FDOT and staff, based on the analysis of these factors, is to select the north alignment alternative. The north alternative would provide safe public access to residential and recreational destinations and is consistent with the goals of creating a connected multimodal transportation system. It is also the most cost-effective and environmentally sound alternative. We would request the board move to select one of the alignments presented in the analysis. The project may then proceed in a manner consistent with the selected alignment. And we are here for any questions.
Great. At this time, do you have any questions for our staff, Commissioners? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clemens. At this time, I'll go ahead and call for public comment. Has anybody come to speak in public comment on Administrative Agenda Item 1, the Able Canal Trail? Okay, I see no speakers, so we'll come back to the board. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Greenwell and the seconds from Commissioner Sandelli. Do we have any discussion on the item? Okay. I see no discussion. I just want to say this is an amazing amenity for the Lehigh Acres community, a $4.4 million trail and investment for the Lehigh Acres community that'll bring a nice bike ped connection and amenity for the community, so happy to support it. All right, if there's no further discussion then, are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously.
If I may, Commissioners, we will need you to specifically select alignment.
Okay, very good. Let me go to the motion maker. You're selecting the north alignment as recommended by our county staff?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the motion maker selection, and the seconder, you're selecting the north alignment as well? Okay, very good. All right, any objections to that? I see no objections, then that motion carries unanimously. All right, please introduce item number 2 on the administrative agenda, Mr. Harner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the award contract for solid waste and recycling collection for service areas 1 and 2, and I'd like to ask Mrs. Brady to present the item.
Good morning, Commissioners. This item is to approve an agreement with Waste Management Franchise to collect all garbage, horticultural, bulk waste, and residential recycling for areas 1 and 2. The term of this agreement is for 7 years with 1 3-year extension. Staff is recommending this extension with Waste Management based on Waste Management's price, which is below the average RFP increase for Florida and provides consistent service to residents within these service areas. Area 1 is Bonita Beach and Fort Myers Beach. Area 2 is the Southwest Fort Myers corridor, including Iona, McGregor, and Captiva. We have staff here to answer any questions for you.
Very good. Commissioners, any questions for our staff at this time?
I have a question.
Commissioner Pendergrass and then Ruane and then Sandelli, I think.
Christine, you were saying that this would provide current service we have now, and do we have any issues with that service now?
No, we do not, sir.
Okay, and you said the cost-wise, there's no extra increase of cost as far as like the averages for the state?
Yes, sir. And Doug's here, could talk a little bit more
Oh,
about
okay, great.
the
Okay.
cost of that if you need.
Take it away, Doug. You probably answered all of our questions. I'm sorry.
I obviously know this in our blue sheet. We talk about area 1 and 2. There's not a commercial dollar amount. Can you give me an approximate? There's not a commercial dollar amount listed in this. There's just a 1 and 2. I'm sure you have some type of ballpark number what commercial will look like.
Yes, Commissioner. Doug Whitehead, Lee County Solid Waste. The increase for commercial is approximately 40%, which is consistent with what you approved last month for the other 2 areas.
40% of?
Present rate.
Do you have a dollar amount? I mean, obviously you're asking us to approve.
I can get you a dollar amount, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's, sir, I'd have to go back and calculate.
About 5 million?
Yes, sir.
Okay, approximately 5 million?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What increase is actually being taken place right here?
Commercial, residential, sir.
Let's go residential first.
So the residential increase is approximately $4 per home, and it's approximately a $2 million increase. It's a 25 and 30% increase, which, as mentioned, was lower than the statewide average over the past 3 years.
And we initially went out to RFP on this, and it was Waste Management's contract to obviously have, and because of their initial proposal, we had to go out to RFP because their rates, I believe in a workshop, were a lot higher based on the workshop we had in January.
Yes, sir. Initially, we contacted both haulers approximately 16 months ago, May of '22, and the rates we received in July from Waste Management were $28.50 and $27.50 per home, which is much higher than what you see in front of you today.
And that cost us to go out to RFP?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Those are my questions for the moment.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Sandelli? I'll wait. Okay. Any other questions then before at this time? Okay, I see no further questions. We've had a presentation. Is there anything further that you wanted to present before we take public comment?
No, Commissioner.
Okay, very good. At this time, we'll move to the public comment portion. We have quite a few cards on this topic. The first speaker is Charles Lomangino, followed by Anthony Badala. When you get up here, you'll see that the microphone is all set, nothing needs to be touched. There's at the top corner of the podium a little green light, yellow light, red light. That tells you where you're at on your time. Everybody's going to get 3 minutes. Just to keep it fair, I'm going to go ahead and call the next speaker when the red light comes on for every speaker. All right?
Very good. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, staff. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning. Basically, what I want to do is just give you a brief overview of the company. We are somewhat new to the area. We came in 2.5 years ago, started in January of 21. Since that time, we've invested $130 million into Lee County specifically. Much of that has gone to the building of infrastructure. We've partnered with companies such as Christel, EnviroStruck, Seagate, Baracco, and numerous others, Stevens Construction. We pride ourselves into living in the community. We relocated our families over here. We feel strongly about using local vendors, local businesses. We are not new to the waste industry. We've been in the waste industry as a family for over 50 years. We've created roughly 350 new jobs since we started, and we're only growing. We're mainly a construction and demolition company. We have 7 facilities where we process and recycle C&D debris. We tried to enter the solid waste collection market last year through the RFP process of Area 4. We qualified. We had the qualifications to bid. We went through the process. We were the low bidder, but we were not awarded the RFP. This year, we tried to get back into solid waste collection by entering the RFP process for Areas 1 and 2. And we were disqualified. In my opinion, it was a technicality. The RFP was supposed to come out at the end of 22. It was delayed probably because of the hurricane. We all understand what we went through with that. And it didn't get released again until the beginning of 23, putting us 3 months outside of the qualification window. In my opinion, that is, you don't forget how to pick up waste in 3 months. Currently, we are the lowest provider, the lowest cost provider. Year 1, we have estimated that we had saved the county nearly $4 million, and over the course of the 10 years, we had saved the county $40 million. Now, we are not new to this process. At the end of the day, competition is a good thing, and our competitors do not want us in the market. We are a check against the market. We keep everybody honest. Not only are we the lowest cost provider, we guarantee we will be a better service provider. We are hands-on. You have ownership that lives here on the West Coast. I office every day in Fort Myers. Our corporate office is in Fort Myers, in Lee County, obviously. Our hauling depots, our maintenance facilities are all in Lee County. We are invested wholeheartedly in the success of Lee County. Now, like I said, we have 50 years of family experience.
At this time, I'd like to call Anthony Badala.
Oh, I went over 3 minutes. Thank you.
All set. Anthony Badala, followed by Mike O'Brien.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing us to speak this morning. Just listening before, the procurement process, going through the bidding process, it works. It works. When we submitted the bid for Area 4, we were the low bidder. We understood it was early in our time here. We decided to not protest and go after it. But Area 1 and 2 came up. Our infrastructure is done. We have 350 employees. We invested $130 million here. We have the know-how based on our previous services over at Solid Waste Authority in Palm Beach County, which, by the way, was double the size of this contract as a whole. And we killed it. You'll have someone speak in that behalf who was in charge of that contract. We had $300 in liquidated damages during that time period. 300. I'm looking at your current service provider. Assessed was $600,000. Non-assessed total, $1.1 million for the areas they serviced. If that was our service, I wouldn't be sitting up here today talking to you with pride with the fact that we could provide you service, price, and all the employees that are possibly going to speak, as far as we would look at those employees first to hire them for this contract. because we need people. We've grown from 0 employees to 350 employees in 2.5 years. When the hurricane came, we opened up a facility in 3 months to help out Lee County. 3 months to help out Lee County. And not only did we take the C&D, we recycled 60% of that material that came to our yards. We've been here for Lee County. What we're asking you to do is simple. Don't accept this contract. Put it back out to bid. I'll guarantee that that bid, even Waste Management submitting right now, is going to come down because of us. $40 million with the commercial over 10 years. $40 million. We're talking about $350 for, or $350,000 for the landscaping. This is $40 million. And they want you to pencil whip a contract for 10 years, 7 years or a 3-year extension with a company that, with that background as far as services, confirm it. This is right off of your website. This is from Lee County, these liquidated damages. We had the same situation in Palm Beach County, $300. That's what, I was mad about the 300. And guess what? That same team that serviced that contract is going to be here. They're here now in Lee County in preparation for a contract should we receive it. I'm not saying we're going to win it. I don't know what the RFP holds. Our number is good from back then, so you know you got $4 on the table.
This time I need to call Mike O'Brien. Thank you. Mike O'Brien, followed by John Archambault.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Mike O'Brien. I'm a Chief Financial Officer for Southwest Waste. I'm also a resident of unincorporated Lee County. And I like living here. Thought I'd mention that to you. I want to just emphasize some of the points that Charlie and Tony made. The company is extremely stable financially. It's extremely well capitalized. We have wonderful financing arrangements with Comerica Bank in Detroit. We have great financial statements audited by KPMG, and we're a solid group. As Charlie mentioned, we've already invested $130 million in Lee County, in trucks and equipment, in recycling equipment, in properties and building, and we're going to invest more. We've got 350 local employees, and we're growing every day. As mentioned, the bid that we submitted in May for Districts 1 and 2 would save you about $4 million a year over what is up on the board there. And over the 10-year life of that contract, it's well over $40 million when you factor in the annual CPI adjustments. It's a huge chunk of change. The company's highly qualified, we're highly motivated, and we want to do business with you. And we sincerely ask you to eliminate the process you're talking about this morning and go back and issue an RFP so you can get the best rate for me and the other residents of the county. So thank you very much.
Thank you. John Archambault, followed by Wayne Zahn.
Good morning. Great job with the name, by the way. John Archambault. I'm retired after 48 years of a garbage man. I have a unique situation where I worked half of that in the private sector and half in the government as director for Solid Waste Authority, retiring 15 months ago. What you're hearing today, we were faced with this in 2012. We had all the big players, and we had this company that was running a recycling facility, and they had all the talent as managers. They had the financial resources. So our commissioners at that time decided to limit the qualifications and make some changes and some adjustments. They were in the process. They were awarded a contract by the Solid Waste Authority, had a seamless transition. Again, it's the people. It comes down to the people that run these companies, and they have a wealth of knowledge. They're great leaders. They have the financial resources, a very smooth transition, and they actually set the bar for the highest level of service for any vendor we've ever had in Palm Beach County. As Tony said, they had liquidated damages of $300. I don't recall that as contract administrator, but all I'm saying is your residential and commercial customers, and you, because I know it's a very tough decision. People are relying on you to make a good decision for the public, but I can assure you that the people that you're talking with today have the means, the ability, the knowledge, and again, it comes down to the people. They will do a great job for this county, for the residents, and for the commercial customers. I've witnessed it firsthand, and just wanted to let you know you're in great hands with this company. Thank you.
Thank you. Wayne Zahn, followed by Rick Cannon. Actually, I think that's Kanya. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. We appreciate the opportunity to speak on this subject. As you've heard from the previous speakers, we're not asking for a backdoor deal or anything. We just want to be considered in an RFP process, which, as we've mentioned in the past, Commissioner Pendergrass just mentioned on a couple items ago, there is a procurement process to find the most qualified vendors at the lowest price for the citizens of the county. You've also heard about potential cost savings. Just to put this relatively, the previous agenda item was an approval of $4 million for a multi-use trail. We know that our prices are going to save you that money in 1 year. And again, we appreciate your time, your consideration. We ask that you do not approve the agenda item that's in front of you. Rather, we ask that you put it back out to a competitive bid process. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick, is it Kanya or Cannon?
Kenya.
Oh,
Excuse me.
Good morning.
Yes, Rick Kenya, representing Waste Management. Not a member, but I do happen to live, or not a resident, but I do happen to live in the Palm Beach County, so I'm very familiar with Mr. Archambault and Mr. Lamangino and Mr. Badala. I've heard a lot of the discussion today, and I think there's a very important factor that the council and the board needs to be aware of. There's a clear business model for venture capital-backed startup companies in our business. Okay, there is a clear model, and that model is you build your revenue and then you divest. I know Mr. Archambault for a long time. Yes, he was the director, and yes, SWS did a good job providing Palm Beach County residents service. However, he failed to tell you is he was also the director when we acquired SWS, and we transitioned that contract to Waste Management. So as you sit here and you make decisions today, just keep in mind that you may select an organization who isn't represented here today. And I think that's very important. You're aware of our long-standing history. You're aware of our response during Hurricane Ian. And just please keep in mind that today's decisions need to be transparent, but also today's decisions need to be made with folks who are going to be here for a long time. Thank you.
David Myhan, followed by Lisa McKnight.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm David Myhan. I'm the President of Waste Management of Florida, and I'd like to thank you for allowing us to be here today. We're a company that really prides ourselves in the service that we provide. We have over 5,000 employees in the state of Florida alone and over 50,000 at WM worldwide. One thing that's clear, we had an issue here last year with the hurricane. We were able to respond and be able to service your account right out of the gates. And we did that. We had tragedy ourselves. We lost a lot of our assets. We were able to pull assets from other places and provide the service day one. And with that comes the knowledge of having us. We're here. We have local people. All the people you see back there, they live here, work here. I live in Florida myself. We're somebody that will be here for you. If you call, we will respond. And I think that's very important. We're not here, we're not going to sell our business tomorrow. We don't want to divest our business. We want to build and grow our business. We're committed to Lee County, and we're certainly proud to be here and hope you make the right decision to stay with us today. Thank you.
Lisa McKnight, followed by Bruce Strayhorn.
Good morning, Lee County Board of County Commissioners. Lisa McKnight, Area Public Sector Director for Waste Management. And it's nice to see all the future promises that another company can come in, but I'm representing Larry Berg here today, who is the district manager for this area. and he provides stellar service to service areas 1 and 2. It's not something that we need to promise to you, it's something that we've proven to do. We attained this contract through the ADS acquisition back in October of 2020. Some of the fines that were previously discussed were part of that acquisition. So if you look at 2021, we only had about 409,000, which does it seem to be a lot? Yes, but we dropped it down to about 208,000 in 2022, and we haven't had a fine since June. When we talk about this new contract, we're going to implement CNG technology over the first 3 to 5 years, which will replace some of our existing diesel with another 50 new trucks coming into service. CNG trucks are quieter in your community, they're much more efficient, and they provide the right emissions. When it comes to infrastructure, yes, we have significant infrastructure, not only in our hauling company, but we actually have a training facility that we train drivers firsthand right here in Lee County, that they fly in from all over the United States. Are we committed to Lee County? 100%. We provide good service, and what we're asking you today is to support the recommendation of staff and to award this contract to WM for service areas 1 and 2. We thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Bruce Strayhorn, and that's the last card I have. If anybody else would like to speak that hasn't spoken, just please line up by the doors and I'll call you forward.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Bruce Strayhorn, and I've represented Waste Management going back to the 1980s. Your staff did a thorough job in the recommendation before you. You heard the testimony, one of the lowest rates in the state for the quality and size of Waste Management, who was able to not miss 1 day of pickup after Hurricane Ian. One of your predecessors told me one time, as a county commissioner, I can make some mistakes on drainage. I can make some mistakes on lawn maintenance, but I don't want to make a mistake on picking up the man's trash that gets up before daylight and puts it at the curb. That, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, that's what you get with a company like Waste Management, able to act immediately. Right now, they're at Fort Myers Beach, assisting with the cleanup. Mr. Chairman, Waste Management has been here and will be here and will continue to be here and provide the quality service largely in Commission District 3. Most of the area you see is in Commissioner Sandelli's district. And our surveys show that in the period of time that Waste Management has taken over that ADS contract, they are now some of the most satisfied customers in the entire area, and in fact, from all the waste management areas around the state of Florida. Mr. Chairman, do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further speakers on this item? Any further speakers at all? Okay, we'll close public comment. We'll come back to the board. Commissioner Sandelli?
Well, since my name has come up, I'll start off. You know, it's interesting, a long time ago when I was in high school, I had a classmate whose father was in the waste business. And I never thought about it, but went out and learned a little bit about the business. And at that early age, started to understand the complexity of what this meant. But I think what it really means is that, you know, the waste and piece of our county is an essential service. And I want to focus on that. It's an essential service to every one of us here, that it's timely, not only that it's picked up, but have we processed that after that. And I've taken the time, as I think many of my constituents here and fellow commissioners have, I've been out to look at their operation. I've met the people, I've watched the process, and I've been very impressed. And I say that only because I think our duty is to provide an established, essential service on a stabilized basis. And so I've looked into waste management in the past. I like the way they approach the business, but not only the way they approach the business, but what I saw going out to visit. And again, I am District 3, and I can tell you that as a customer in our community, we're very pleased with what waste management is provided for us. So.
Commissioner Ruane?
Sure. First and foremost, thanks for all the speakers, and I certainly have no particular issue with waste management whatsoever. However, I personally cannot waive procurement on a $200 million contract. I can't. Here's the package, if any of you've gotten it, base that was submitted. The liquidated damages give me great consternation. The cost to the citizens. When we first had this, the contract extension could have been handled. It wasn't. It was an 83% increase, which cost us to go out to bid, RFP. We didn't really go through that because the first item on the agenda is to waive the procurement process. I can't waive a procurement process on a $200 million contract that's going to cost the citizens of $40 million. At the very least, let's go through our RFP on an item that is as significant as this, and that's where I stand on this item. No disrespect to anyone. Let's just everybody resubmit, because requiring us to go to an RFP initially brought the cost down from $23.25 in residential area 1 to $18.75. I'd like to have a full RFP process. It's $200 million is what we all talk about, and I don't want to waive any procurement process right here.
Commissioner Pendergrass?
I have a question of staff. Dave, I don't know if it'd be you or Christine to answer. So thank you to all the speakers being here today, or even Doug could be, maybe they answer the question. But just to clarify, going back, I love history, so let's go back. We're here today because they went through a procurement process, correct? Correct. And we're here because of why?
Commissioners, Doug Whitehead, Lee County Solid Waste. We're here because after due diligence, a company was found disqualified. As part of our analysis, we decided to cancel the RFP. Shortly afterwards, we received an extension request with the rates that you see in front of you.
Okay. And if this fell today, what brought forward on this agenda item, the staff proposal, what would happen and what would be the cost of Lee County residents if you had to extend the contract for next year? Would it be an increase to the cost of Lee County residents?
Our assumption, it would be an increase. We'd have to do a 1 year before as we work on the RFP.
Would it be a minimal increase? Would it be an astronomical increase? Do we have any idea how much it would be to extend it 1 year?
I'm going to ask Doug to answer that question.
So based upon my experience, is a 1 year would be a high increase. But not only that, the RFP process already has, as you can see in front of you, rates that are published. So we're not sure we get it. In my experience, pushing off a year, which has been done in places such as Hillsborough County, has resulted in much higher rates.
I just want to make sure we do the right thing for the taxpayers and for the users. They provide a quality service and a cost-effective. So we went through the process. We're back here today because you were asked to extend the current contract that's in place that's been efficient. So I understand this is very uncomfortable. Everybody doesn't like this situation. And this is, I would say, my colleagues that's been here, I've been here 11 years, and usually we don't have this happen. When I think some of the first speakers today, I really wasn't really addressing the agenda item, which was to either accept or deny this agreement. Like, obviously, earlier we're talking about the landscape maintenance. And we have a procurement process in place so we don't get caught up in the middle of this. The county commissioners on ethical, legal reasons do not get involved with the procurement process because of this reason, where it's a committee goes through and it's a legitimate process that goes through and it's ethical and it's, you know, there's rules in place, cone of silence. And that's my concern here is because Southwest does a great job here in Lee County and Charlotte County. They're all over the place. They're doing great work, but it puts us in a bad place because we're being asked to do something that's not the normal, because what's going to happen, you start this slippery slope, this will happen with every contract. Every time somebody loses and gets disqualified or challenges, they will feel like they're going to come before us, and we'll be talking about vehicle maintenance, vehicle purchasing, and that's not a position the Board of County Commissioners should be in as far as that goes, because there's a process in place, and it's there for a reason, so this doesn't happen. Dave, do you have any, Richard, can you enlighten us a little bit why the process is in place here to keep us under state statute for the procurement process?
Chairman?
Yes, sir, Richard.
Commissioners, As Commissioner Pendergrass pointed out, the current structure is pretty much at the staff level with regard to the procurement process to create an insulation layer for the Board of County Commissioners. You have delegated to staff the responsibility for the procurement process, reserving unto yourself the final decision, whether it be to waive or accept a contract.
Commissioners, any further comments? Commissioner Greenwell, anything? Nothing? You know, I just, I'll share where my head's at on this. Of course, I think we do need a motion, but, you know, I respect tremendously both sides that have presented today, and I even respect people who may be interested in competing for this business that haven't presented today as well. I think what happens in Lee County when you have multiple businesses that want to compete for service, they want to compete to provide a service to the county residents, then obviously we have a process for that, and that process is our procurement process. So at this point, I don't feel comfortable waiving the procurement process. I've got multiple companies. I'm not picking any of them. I don't want to do a selection process here at the commission meeting. I don't think that's the right way to do business. But if you've got multiple companies that want to compete to provide service to our residents, then let's go to the normal procurement process then and let them compete and let the best company, you know, win and be selected. Commissioner Ruane, you have a comment?
I do. I'm going to make a motion that we do not waive procurement. We go out to RFP.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Ruane. Do we have a second? I'll second the motion for further discussion. Is there, you know, again, I think this is, so we have a motion to go out to RFP and we have a second, but my thought again was, could you outline maybe Mr. Harner on the RFP? I know there's this concern about having to renew and extend for 1 year and that extension may be expensive, right? Could you do a month-to-month extension?
I'm gonna let Doug, but I do not believe we could.
Commissioner, that would depend heavily upon the present holder of the contract. And I don't think I've ever seen it, is the way I would answer that, sir.
So the other question I have, what would be the procurement timeline? Could you get the procurement wrapped up before the end of the year?
Sir, we would not be able to begin the contract is the way I think it's best presented before the end of the term. Sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If I may, can I ask Mary Tucker to come up and answer that question, please?
Yeah, I mean, because I think that's the question. I need to know the timeline here. You know, what are we talking about? Because this contract doesn't actually end until September of next year. So I'm looking at, we've got an entire year. You're telling me that in a county the size of Lee County, we couldn't get a procurement completed in a year. I'd like to know, you know, what that looks like, what that timeline looks like.
A typical RFP will take us about 6 months.
Would this one have the ability to be, so talk to me about that process. Do you have to write the whole bid package and all the bid specs and everything like that in that typical RFP?
We already, because we had went out before, there was some conflict in the language. We would have to clean that up. So we could probably have the new one out in less than a month. We have to advertise it for 30 days. And then we have to do our due diligence, which takes a couple of weeks. Then we have to have the evaluation committee meetings, which usually takes about a month because we'll have 1 to 2 committee meetings. And then the contracts have to be negotiated and written, and then we have to get it before the board.
So based on everything that you've just said, is it possible that the timeline could be shorter than 6 months on this one because of all the work that's been done?
Possible. Okay. I don't want to commit to something that we can't meet, but it would take no more than 6 months. We could have it done within 6 months, if not sooner.
And then just from my understanding, let's say it does complete in 6 months, then what would be the process from the completion of the RFP in 6 months, whoever's selected? What happens between then and the end of the contract?
I'll let Doug answer.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. But between the award and the end of the contract, we would have to negotiate the actual agreement, see if there's any changes in it. Number 2 is that, and here's the thing, they have to hire, the company has to hire people and purchase trucks. The reason we started this process long ago was because of that very issue. and that's a concern, is that generally truck delivery right now is running between 13 to 15 months. Our experience actually is a little bit higher than that, but we go through one company, but it would still take about 13 to 15 months in our estimate to get trucks on site, which is why we would request the extension.
Okay. I think that answers the questions that I have. Commissioner Pendergrass?
Doug, we talked about this last week about you brought the trucks. I was questioning, I thought maybe the trucks are more easier available now than it used to be. So you were telling me a few weeks ago that, like you just said, that if you extend it for a year, and we're still, I'm not really sure we even go there, Richard can stop me maybe, we're talking about one company. The motion was to go out to bid, but the whole motion today before us is actually different parts of that motion, so I'm not sure if the motion has to be addressed, the other parts of that motion, because the motion before us is either extend the current contract or not. But anyway, back to this process of going back and selecting one company here today, would they have time to get the trucks before that bidding process? We're getting ahead of the game here.
The incumbents, sir, or the?
Well, the current company that's here today protesting against this current contract, would they have time to get the trucks?
Very difficult to get the trucks, sir, in our opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ruane?
2 points. I mean, you could certainly ask them, they're sitting in the audience, but more importantly, I think what's here is, my consternation has been, this was initially presented to us, and we were going to do an extension. It was $23.25. Okay, we go out to RFP, it's $18.75. So taxpayers of Lee County are benefiting. I just struggle, and I've been very clear with staff in all my briefings that I struggle with this process because I can't weave procurement on a $200 million contract. I cannot.
Any further discussion or questions? Commissioner Sandelli?
I just want to go back to the comment I started with before. This is an essential service, and for us to go through another process and not know where the end game is, I'm very uncomfortable with that. I can tell you in my neighborhood, people wait for the mail to come. The mail's here. And if it comes on time, it's great. Trash gets picked up timely. We've been very pleased with that. If the trash doesn't get picked up, which is very seldom, if anything, in our neighborhoods and stuff like that, it's an essential service. And it's not just the hauling, it's the rest of the equipment, the people, the process. And for me, I believe in the process we're going through here today.
Any further comments then?
I have one final one. Obviously, we would need to go through an extension, but obviously what we're talking about is $40 million. I'm sure we'll be able to absorb whatever that extension would cost and still save the taxpayers. This is still a tax. I know it's a franchise fee, it's still a tax, and I've made my position very clear.
All right, I see no further discussion, so at this time, we'll just go ahead and vote on the motion that's on the floor. Are there any objections to the motion that's on the floor?
Aye.
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 So we have 3 objections to the motion on the floor, so it does not pass. So at this time, then we'll come back to the board. Commissioner Ruane and Commissioner Hammond supported the motion that was on the floor, so it failed though 3-2. So we'll come back to the board for a motion then. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal here presented by our waste management group.
So the motion is to approve the staff recommendation from Commissioner Sandelli. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Second from Commissioner Pendergrass. Do we have any discussion on that item? The only discussion I want to share is this was no judgment on waste management by my part for sure today, was just really trying to get to the fairness of the process. When you have great companies that want to compete to provide service for your residents, I think we have a request for procurement process and we just go through the process and let them compete and may the best company win. I think there could have been even companies who are not in the room today that could have taken part in that competition, but we'll never know.
I'd love to echo your comments. I was very impressed with Waste Management coming to my office, and Lisa, you did a great job of talking face to face to me. I was very clear in what my consternation was over this. I appreciate your comments, appreciate your work. I just can't weave. Procurement has nothing to do with you on a $200 million contract, so I'm a no.
Very good. Any further comments?
I just want to say, I trust our process. It went through procurement. Obviously, that's why we're here today, and I just said, I warn our board in the future and our staff to us be in this position because it's not the proper way to do things. And that was my objection today. And also make sure we provide quality service at a fair price to the residents that's average throughout the state, and that's what we're doing here today. It's unfortunate. Southwest does great work here in Lee County and Charlotte County, and I hope they continue to do a lot of work here. Thank you.
Any further comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. Kind of following up on Commissioner Pendergrass's statement. It does put the commissioners in a bad position when we're waiving a procurement process, even though it originally went through it. And I also want to say the same, as staff makes mistakes sometimes, but these mistakes shouldn't be put on us to have to vote on. So I hope in the future we do a better job.
Very good. Any further comments then?
Final comment. I think in the bottom line for me, I think Waste Management has earned it through performance to go forward. And I think in the end game, everything's about performance. That's the guy in the Hall of Fame over there. So, thank you.
Very good. All right, then I'll go ahead and call the question. Are there any objections to the motion that's on the floor? Okay. So I see the motion carries 3-2. Commissioner Hammond and Commissioner Ruane objecting. And again, nothing against the incumbent, just the process. All right, let's move on to the next item then. Thank you, commissioners. Next item is item number 3 on the administrative agenda. Mr. Harner, please introduce the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is to concur with recommendations provided at the September 5th, 2023 workshop regarding the Cape Coral Bridge. And I'd like to ask Mr. Price to present the item.
Morning, Commissioners. Rob Price with DOT. This item is a follow-up to the workshop on September 5th on the Cape Coral Bridge Replacement Project. The purpose of the project development and environment phase of this project is to address the aging Cape Coral Bridge while adding capacity to the roadway, improving traffic operations, adding multimodal facilities, and enhancing safety for all roadway users. DOT presented 2 build alternatives as well as a no-build alternative to the board as a part of the PD&E study. The 2 build alternatives differed regarding the location of the U-turn movement for the Fort Myers side of the new bridge. The build alternative 1 places the U-turn underneath the replaced bridge at the Caloosahatchee River. Based on the minor differences in environmental impacts, the difference in project costs, and the larger amount of public support, it is recommended that the build alternative number 1 be advanced for further analysis. The no-build alternative will remain a viable alternative throughout the duration of the study. Staff also asked the board for concurrence to move forward with the pedestrian overpass on the Cape Coral side of the project at a location to be determined later through the design in order to address connectivity and safety concerns for cyclists and pedestrians after the addition of a concrete separator in the median on Cape Coral Parkway. The project team respectfully requests that the board endorse the team's recommendation to advance the Cape Coral Bridge project study. Staff is here for any questions.
All right, any questions for our staff on this one?
Yeah, just to clarify, we are picking between 1 and 2, or just the...
We are concurring with the recommendation to move forward with further analysis on alternative 1, which places the U-turn at the Caloosahatchee River.
Just wanted to clarify.
Rob, my understanding is that of the 2 alternatives, 1 has some cost savings associated with that.
Correct.
Okay.
Alternative 1 was the cheaper alternative.
And part of my attraction to that is hopefully that overpass can, in fact, be built, because I think that's important to the overall project here.
Commissioner Pendergrass?
Thank you. I support alternative 1, and thank you, Rob. This is going to be a great project and increase safety, pedestrian safety. It's also increased the access and entrances to the areas of the Calusa Yacht and Racquet Club, which is a very active community, and the whole area was definitely going to embrace this. So thank you for everything. What's the total cost of the bridge? I know it changes every day, but roughly what's the total cost of this?
Currently, it's in the $300 million range.
$300 million, and we already have some vendors we're already looking at for engineering, scope work, and all that.
We already have a designer under contract.
Right, and guess what? We won't be hearing from them or anybody else in the future wanting that job. So there's a process in place, and it works on a $300 million bridge. So thank you again.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any further, Commissioner, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'll make a motion to obviously accept staff's recommendation.
Okay, motion for approval of staff recommendation from Commissioner Ruane, and we have the second from Commissioner Greenwell. Do you have any further discussion? Do you have any objection?
No objection, that motion carries unanimously. Please introduce item number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next 4 items will be under the hurricane recovery section of the administrative agenda, and the first one being to approve submission of the required CDBG-DR action plan to HUD, and I'd like to ask Mr. Salyer to present the item.
Commissioners, the plan for submission is what you saw at your last board meeting, with the exception of some clarifications that were noted on the recap agenda. Those clarifications were requested by HUD. The other thing that we are requesting is authority to administratively complete routine reports, fill out forms that HUD requires, execute environmental reports, and make non-substantial changes to the action plan going forward, because we do expect more comments and requests for tweaks to that from HUD.
Okay, very good. Any questions, commissioners, on this item?
Not right now.
I'll move the item.
Okay, Commissioner Ruane moves the staff recommendation. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Second from Commissioner Sandelli.
public comment.
Oh, yeah, I was just getting the motion, and then I was going to ask for public
We
comment.
also need public comment on the previous item.
We skip public comment on the, oh, all right. We got going a little fast. All right, so let's do this. Let's reopen item number 3 on the administrative agenda. So welcome to item number 3 on the administrative agenda. We're discussing the Cape Coral Bridge again. So we had a workshop, and at the workshop, we picked Cape Coral Bridge Alternative 1. And the staff has made a recommendation that we concur with our discussion at the workshop and our selection at the workshop. So would anybody like to speak in public comment on that? Anybody at all? Okay, I see nobody who would like to speak in public comment. Commissioner Ruane, would you like to make a motion?
I'd love to make a motion. Obviously, as we all knew in the workshop, this was a better alternative and certainly going to save the taxpayers a lot of money. So just for the record, that was what's the workshop. My motion is to accept staff's recommendations.
All right, Commissioner Greenwell, would you like to second that?
I would gladly like to second that.
All right, so we have Commissioner Ruane who has made the motion and Commissioner Greenwell who has seconded that. Do you have any further discussion by the commissioners at all? Okay, I see no further discussion by the commissioners. Are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. All right, let's move back to item number 4, which is our CDBG-DR action plan and submitting that to HUD. Has anybody come to speak on item number 4? I have one card from Marcia Ellis.
Good morning, Commissioners. Marcia Ellis for the record. So I have quite a few comments I want to put into the record regarding this particular item. First of all, having reviewed the recap from September 5th, which included the public comments from municipalities and the public, myself included, I would like to just very politely request and clarify that the entirety of those public comments be submitted to HUD, not a summary, but the entire public comments, that those are going directly to HUD for their review. I'm also going to request that in the spirit of transparency, that changes, because we're looking at a lengthy process here, that are made available for the public to review and to be aware of. I do have concerns about the environment and the environmental review, because I don't think that the spirit of the recovery is to lessen our resiliency capacity in the future. And I have concerns that with so much development and so much money coming into the community, that the unintended impacts to folks who benefit from wetlands, from open space in their community now could lose those benefits in the future through overdevelopment. I'm just going to speak allegorically here for a moment. I'm not singling anyone out. But when we have a judge, the executioner, and the undertaker be the same person, it challenges our notion of what's transparent. And so I think it's very important that we have disclosed, separated roles for people who are involved in the review and the allocation and that we have strong, very strong internal controls. We have an opportunity now to reflect upon how well that we're functioning, because the standard is we shouldn't have conflicts of interest that even tempt dishonor. And I just ask that we recommit ourselves to transparency in the spending of these funds to protect people and preserve the resilience capacity that we have in our community going forward. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers on agenda item number 4, the CDBG-DR action plan, and submitting that to HUD? Any further speakers? Okay, I see none, so we'll close public comment. Would somebody like to make a motion? Commissioner Ruane?
I gladly will make a motion. I will also give all the people that have engaged in this process, from the branches to the task force to Doug, obviously, and Glenn, through this process. It's going to be a 6-year process. We're going to allocate money. We're going to reallocate money. We've gone out to the community. This is just a requirement that's due the 20th. And obviously, it's going to be an evolution based on what we're able to do and what we're not able to do based on the requirements within it. So I'm going to make a motion to move this forward.
Okay, so Commissioner Ruane moves approval of the staff recommendation.
I'll second that
Commissioner
comment as well.
Sandelli seconds it. Go ahead.
I'd also would like to thank everybody. This is a work in progress, as Commissioner Wayne said. I'd also like to thank all the people in the community and the various people that have weighed in on this. It's a work in progress. We'll keep tweaking it, and we'll get to where we need to be. Thank you.
Any comments over here? No? Okay. All right, seeing no further comments, are there any objections to the motion? All right, I see none, so that motion carries unanimously. All right, please introduce item number 5, Mr. Harner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is to approve purchases of 4 replacement Ford F-150 trucks for Parks and Recreation. I'd like to ask Mr. Lavender to present the item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jesse Lavender with Fleet Management. We're asking you to replace 4 F-150s that were a part of the Parks and Recreation Ranger unit that were flooded during Hurricane Ian. The total amount is just over $209,000.
All right, any questions for our staff at this time, Commissioners? Commissioner Ruane?
Just clarity, obviously, in my briefing, it's just important to know, in our workup sheet, it basically says this item isn't in the current budget, but I think it's important to know we're getting reimbursed from insurance. So it might be a cash flow issue temporarily, but I just want to make sure that's an accurate statement on the record.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'll move the item.
Okay, motion for approval from Commissioner Ruane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Pendergrass. At this time, I need to take public comment. Would anybody like to speak in public comment on item 5, the replacement of 4 trucks for Parks and Recreation? Okay, I see no comments. Then we'll come back to the board. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any further discussion? Are there any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. All right, please introduce item number 6, Mr. Harner.
Yes, Commissioner, we deferred this item.
Okay, so item 6 was deferred on the recap. Please introduce item 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is to award a contract for security guard services before, during, and after an emergency event. I'd like to ask Ms. Tucker to present the item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mary Tucker, Director of Procurement Management. Before you this morning is a request to approve a 3-year contract with Advanced Nationwide Security Corporation to provide security guard services at various locations throughout the county. This will be before, during, and after a disaster as needed. This is a pre-position contract that meets all of the federal requirements, making us eligible for reimbursement. I am available for any questions.
All right, any questions for our staff at this time? I see no questions. At this time, I'd like to call for public comment on item number 7 on the administrative agenda, the security guard services. Okay, I see no public comment. Back to the board. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to move the item.
Commissioner Greenwell moves approval.
Second.
Commissioner Sandelli makes the second. Do we have any discussion?
No, I
Commissioner
think
Sandelli?
These are one of those lessons that we've learned going through what we've been through last year and stuff like that. So as we continue to tweak the service and assess our needs, I think it's well-founded.
I agree. Any further comments on that? Okay, see no further comments. Are there any objections to the motion? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. All right, please introduce item number 8, Mr. Harner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the award contract for permanent repair of signals damaged by Hurricane Ian, and I'd like to ask Mr. Price to present the item.
Morning again, Commissioners. Rob Price with DOT. This item is to award a contract with Traffic Control Devices LLC to complete the repairs to the county and city-owned traffic signals that were damaged as a result of Hurricane Ian. The contract is in the amount of $194,525. The Federal Highway Administration will cover 80% of that cost, and the county and cities will be responsible for the remainder of the cost. Construction is scheduled to begin in October, and the contractor has 6 months to repair the components of the intersections that affect traffic flow. Signage and lighting at the intersections will get an additional 6 months to be repaired. With that, we're here for questions.
Any questions, Commissioners? Commissioner Ruane?
Rob, I don't know if you know, maybe Dave needs to, but the $350 million that was set aside for hurricane relief money, I know the legislature paid for a lot of the 20% matches. Could we potentially utilize that funds, or at least put in the application and utilize those funds?
Yes, we can.
Okay. And whether we can or not, it should be an ask we have up at the legislature. It was consistent with everything they paid, and somehow this got lost.
Excellent. Yeah, good question.
I'll move the item.
Okay, motion for approval from Commissioner Ruane. Do we have a second? Second from Commissioner Sandelli. Do we have any further discussion or comments? Okay, let's go to the public comment then at this time. Has anybody come to speak in public comment on the traffic signals hurricane recovery item? I see no speakers. Back to the board. We already have a motion and a second on the floor. Do we have any further discussion? Just only comment I'll add before we call for the vote then is just I'm really looking forward to getting everything straightened up, cleaned up, looking nice. I think that, certainly our residents are excited about that too. So, all right, any further discussion? Seeing none, are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. That concludes our administrative agenda. We'll move to the public hearings agenda at this time. County Attorney's Office, please introduce item number 1.
Morning, Commissioners. David Halverson, County Attorney's Office. I have your first and only public hearing this morning. This item has been duly advertised, and I provided the affidavit of publication to the clerk. Item 1 is a request for the board to adopt a resolution declaring 65 vacant lots as surplus land and classifying these lots as appropriate for affordable housing purposes. Approval of this item will also authorize future conveyance of the lots through donation to qualified not-for-profit organizations or through sale using methods set forth in the county's surplus land ordinance, with any sale proceeds being applied to the county's Affordable Housing Trust Fund. If there's any questions, staff's available.
Anybody have any questions for our county attorney or our staff? Okay, I see none. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Does anybody wish to speak in public comment on item 1? I did have one card from William Joe Schottmiller. Yeah, come forward, sir, and share your comments on this item.
This is always, we're always, us advocates are looking to find properties that could be utilized for affordable housing and that belt, or if there was actually any existing with buildings, that would be great too. I was to a city meeting yesterday and I got a card from Mr. Steve Belden, and he will look into a list of what is owned by the city. Now, I would like to see what might be available that could be used for affordable housing. We're not just talking homeless. We're talking like the city does have a building that is near Rosa Parks. That could be utilized into a youth hostel to bring in revenue for the affordable housing. We're not talking housing homeless. We're talking making a business that will be affordable to people until they get into housing, okay? You got people doing day labor. You have a labor pool right on Jackson Street there, so that would help that. And then also the people who are coming on Greyhound, you know, they don't want to be standing out there waiting hours for the Greyhound to come. It could bring in revenue for the housing fund for nonprofits to build and that, like the Lois Healy's and that. So as a business and that, so he was going to look into what it's valued at. And right now it is not available because the police are using it, but that would really be a great thing. So, and I have a comment. friend of mine seems to know you, see, so for years when you were a
Sir,
policeman.
I apologize, Mr. Schottmiller. We're looking for public comment on public hearing 1, which was adopting a resolution about vacant lots as surplus lands. Could you keep your comments on that part of it?
Yes, sir, that's the vacant land. That's what I would like to have a list of all of it so it can be utilized in that, you know, so that we can start having affordable housing. Okay. The nonprofit. So I know you have 2 in North Fort Myers and 2 in North Fort Myers, 1. So what properties are they, you know?
Okay.
My comment to Mr. Pendergrass was a friend of mine that knows him for years, said that Cecil way back was trying to get people off the street, like the buildings, and get them into something years ago. So I appreciate that. And what we need to do is utilize that and get some buildings where people off the street at affordable rates, not free, affordable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I just, you know, again, reading the rules of decorum, we want to try to make sure we don't make personal comments and we stay on the agenda topic. You have a comment on this
Yes,
topic?
I do. I'm just going to make it very brief. Marcia Ellis for the record. I would like to see that these lands not be available for recapture. Instead, that they remain in permanent subsidy so that they don't become a source of funding stream that's turned over, that the land becomes available, someone builds the house, then it's sold for recapture. I think that if there's a need in this community for permanently subsidized housing to be available, and I would just not like to see recapture as being the method because I don't think that it works. I think we need permanent subsidy, some housing locations to truly tackle and approach the affordable housing crisis. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any further comments on this item, public hearing number 1? Okay, I see no further speakers. Back to the board. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Gladly move the item that's referenced on the blue sheet.
Okay, motion for approval from Commissioner Wayne, seconds from Commissioner Pendergrass. Do we have any discussion on this item? No? Okay, I see no further discussion. Are there any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. All right, at this time we'll move to, we have no walk-ons and carryovers that were noted on the recap, so we'll move to Commissioner items. Commissioner Greenwell, do you have any items today?
Not.
Commissioner Pendergrass?
Yes, I have a couple. First, I talked about, I think some of us has also been approached by some of the towing industry in the area. I've been asked to bring up, if there's consensus of the board, to have staff review their current towing ordinance and fee schedule to see if it's compatible to the rest of the area, to see if the board is in agreement to let the staff review what we currently are allowed vendors charge for towing rates and fuel, if there's agreement on the board to do that. And County Attorney, would we need a motion for that or vote?
Yes, you're recognized.
Thank you.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Pendergrass, second from Commissioner Ruane. Do we have anybody who would like to speak in public comment on that motion before we vote on it? Okay, I see no speakers, so we'll come back to the board. Any discussion on that item? I just appreciate you bringing it up. Thank you, Commissioner Pendergrass. Are there any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. Do you have any other items?
Yes, I have another item. So I was just wanted to have a discussion. We talked about it a few weeks ago at another meeting. You know, every week there was a challenge just trying to get our message out. And we've got such a great organization here in Lee County, OneOrg with the Lee County staff, and all our employees do such a great job. And the board is really committed to Lee County and making sure that we do the right thing for Lee County from a budgetary standpoint to a quality of life. I think we've always have this challenge in the past, trying to get our message out. Obviously, the problem is nowadays there's not just one or two ways of messaging people. You used to be 30, 40 years ago, everybody got the news press, everybody got the hard paper, and everybody read it, or they saw it on TV. And now there's so many different ways of messaging people. There's people out there I know they don't even have cable. They don't even watch TV, or they don't even watch the evening news, or they got their messaging on their phones or whatever. And we do such a great job here in the county, and I really think we should try to enhance that. We have great PIO staff here. I think the challenge is they don't have enough resources. So I'd like to see if this board likes to discuss today about what we can do in the future to get our message out. And when I say messaging, it's more what we see what happens. And we saw this a few weeks ago with the all the misinformation out there with the LDC issue. It was basically certain groups would use a headline to get messaging out. The headline was, Lee County is destroying barrier islands. If you actually read the story, it really said another story. But the headline is what caught people's attention. That's why they shared it, clicked on it and message it. And I think our headline would be, if we were writing that same message, was Lee County is adopting new LDC amendments. Well, nobody's going to click on LCD amendments. They don't really care if you live in North Fort Myers or Alva or somewhere else about that, if it's about the Barry Islands. But the problem is when you see the headline, Lee County is destroying Barry Islands, that would obviously get somebody's attention, no matter where you live. If you live here, if you live in New York. So I think we could do a better job as far as getting our message out, but I think we need to give that direction to staff, because I don't think in the past we've actually gave that message to staff to give a strong message, aggressive message out. For example, if something like that happens in the future, and I'm not trying to pick on one item, we could say everything is from either civic center stuff, it could be about baseball fields, we dealt with that 10 years ago with stadiums. Water quality, it's always coming up. Blue-green algae comes up every couple of years. So when you see the headlines, Lee County beaches are closed and devastated from blue-green algae. Well, is that really true? I mean, are the beaches really closed? So I think we have to get a better way of messaging. So I think if you guys want to talk about it now, or we can talk about more in the workshop, how we can approach that, and maybe direct staff to come back to see how they can enhance their PIO, how they need, because it's really not fair to put it back on one person and say, hey, you need a large organization, $2 billion budget. And I think also I'd like to see what other counties in the state are doing to the same thing. We see what the sheriff does with the media. We see what the sheriff can do with media and why you can promote what the county's doing, the organization and employees, and I think we need to do that.
All right, comment?
Yeah, Commissioner.
Thanks, Chairman. Thanks for bringing that up. As a person who's dealt with national media for many years of my life, and local media as well, I think it's something that this county needs and probably should have done a long time ago. We don't really get our message out. I think, Chairman, you've done a great job of explaining to people this year about how the process works, getting that message out. Those things are just so important. So I think this is a great opportunity for us as a county to look into what other counties are doing and to make sure that we are getting our message out as well. We make some tough votes up here, and I think it's important that we have a voice as well.
If I can just add one thing. Media, I mean, like Mike said, he's dealt with them local level. I dealt with them local level, doing PIO at the police department for many years. The media really means well at the end of the day, but they're only going to project what we say to a certain point. Sometimes it gets made up a little bit differently. We saw that happen yesterday. But anyway, it gets changed. But if we don't provide a message for them, if we don't provide a strong message to them, they're going to write their own narrative. And the problem is we're not writing our narrative. We need to be writing our narrative. This is why we voted on this today. This is why the Board of County Commissioners, and like I said, it could be the landfill. I voted against the landfill expansion for 4-1 vote. I'd be happy for that story to run, even though I was on the losing side of it, to understand why I voted the way I did. And we're all going to be in that position one day. I'm okay with that, but we just need to know why. I think we should give a strong message so somebody else is not telling our message for us. And I think we have a lot of good messages, a lot of good information, and good stories to tell about what a great job our county staff does. Anywhere from traffic signals to the bridge, and the new bridge we just approved today, design. We need to tell everybody that story, because if we don't, somebody else will write the narrative for us.
Commissioner, I'm glad you brought that one scenario up, though. So what would, and I'm not that I disagree with anything you say, by the way, communication is absolutely essential. It's probably one of the most important functions that we need to do as an organization. But what do you recommend that the staff do in a situation where you've got one commissioner or maybe a couple commissioners who vote differently than the other commissioner? How do they get in the middle of that without sounding like they're taking a side over a commissioner?
I think the best way to do it, we vote on based upon the positive, the motion. The board made this motion today, and they voted 3-2, 4-1, whatever it may be, or 5-0 to do this for Lee County. It saves Lee County taxpayers this dollar. It brings the bridge, it brings pedestrian safety, or for the landfill, we'll use that. I was a little losing side of that. The board voted for this expansion of the landfill. We had to use the landfill because of the hurricane, no choice in the matter. Commissioner Pendergrass voted against it because the residents that directly live near it are affected with quality of life and smell and transportation. I'm okay with that because that's how I voted. And I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I think Commissioner Wayne, for example, the way he voted on the LCZ, he did it because it's not what he wanted. He was crystal clear. This is what I want. This is not what I wanted. He was concerned about the Barry Islands as far as doing that. that's fine, because that's what his message should be promoted, and not through any other version or through emails or through anything else through Nextdoor. It should be our message through our communications. And that's what I'm saying. Agencies this big, departments this big, counties this big, should have more people involved with that messaging. And I'm not saying we should vote on every message, but I think we should give that latitude to the county manager. This is what the board did. This is why we voted. If the county manager wants to meet with us and say, this item came up, we need to address this in the media, what kind of message would you want with that? I'm okay with that.
Any further comments? 'Cause
I think the concept is a great concept. I think staff needs to analyze what they're currently doing, what resources they have, and make their recommendations to us.
I think one of the things that I would point out, this is like the one area that I feel like I got some experience and some expertise in. One of the things I think we have a real opportunity to do is to proactively tell our story here in Lee County, and to go out and actually let people know about all the good things that we're doing ahead of time. So for instance, let's just talk about the tax rate. We're going to have a budget hearing tonight. What was the tax rate 10 years ago? What is it today? The millage rate was 4.15 something when I first became a commissioner in 2013. Today it's $3.76 per thousand of taxable value. So to me, that rate has gone down. We've lowered that. So we need to just explain some of those things proactively, so that people get to see those things. Even though there was disagreement on the land development code, there were some things that we were trying to accomplish there. So just talk about the good intentions and the rationale and the logic behind it, so that people don't look at it and say, wow, those guys are idiots. Because the headline says they did this, and some way to explain the rationale. People at the end of the day could still disagree with the rationale, but at least we proactively told our story. Commissioner Sandelli?
Well, I broke this down a few different ways. First of all, congratulations to the county team. They work hard to put the word out. The other thing I find interesting is what the media can do. It can help you, it can hurt you. That's their prerogative. I think the more that our team can provide them with the right information, they're going to be, so we have an internal team, we have an external team. If we can get that external team, it was what we were at the sheriff's office the other day, I think we made the point to them that that message that they carry from the sheriff to the community is vitally important. Give them the information, show them the end result of that. I also think that there's a segment of the media that will never, TikTok and stuff, we're never going to compete with that situation. You can't control it. So I think if we can focus on our team, augment that team, we can help. You look at some of the young reporters that do, interviews with us, are you old enough to drive here for that? They're learning. And if we can help them learn, they're going to be a better conduit for the information. So I think there's an opportunity there with the external side.
So at this point, any further discussion on your
No,
item?
this thing is a consensus to direct staff to look at what we do countywide and to see how we can enhance our messaging, our PIO program to help Dave's office and Betsy get our message out.
Is that your motion?
Sorry?
Is that your motion?
Yes.
I'll second it.
So motion from Commissioner Pendergrass and a second from Commissioner Ruane. Let's ask, would anybody, any members of the public like to speak? Mr. Ballard? Yeah, you're welcome to.
Danny Ballard, North Elmira Civic Association. I agree, seesaw 100% with what you're saying, but both me and you being in the public service, it's tough to get the media to put out the good stuff that you do. They're always looking for the negative. Tell me which TV station is in this room today because there wasn't any controversial.
They're here.
So they're not here, and being able to get them to put something on the TV prior to the meeting, that's good. I don't know how you're going to do it because we fought that battle for years. I know with the PIO this county has, Betsy does a tremendous job. But, and if people look at the computers, if they have a computer and read it, and they read the county page, it's all there. But how many people in Lee County don't even have a computer to look at it? So they rely on the TV. Not many people read the news press anymore, so putting something in the news press is almost a moot point because nobody gets it, looks at it. Yes, there's other media things out there, And I don't know how you go about targeting what's the best media source, because I don't know what it is. Just like Commissioner Sandell had said, TikTok, you'll never fix it. But how many people look at TikTok? How many people look at some of the other? So it's almost like you're going to have to sit down and have a group formulate, research, what is the best way to get the message out? And it shouldn't always be negative. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any further comments?
Marcia Ellis, thank you. I'm glad to hear the topic of communication come up because this has been something I've been concerned about going back to the adoption of the noticing, because I felt like for a long time that the ability of the not just the county government to communicate, but also the people to communicate and engage with their county government on matters that involve them, such as if zoning actions, comprehensive plan amendment changes, and understanding those processes is important. And I do follow a lot of different sources of media, and I am not really hearing of those opportunities for the public to engage with the county government being shared. And that concerns me because communication doesn't just go one way. And as hard as you try to control it in terms of your policies within the county government as just having one person be a spokesman, I disagree with that as an overall philosophy, because I think to have people communicate openly about different areas that they are expert in, the different areas of the government, is a benefit to the public, because there is an educational element in there so that people can learn about the benefits that their government provides them. For instance, with the comprehensive plan amendment, and noticing those, that's still an outstanding issue. And to the best of my knowledge so far, putting that on the bulletin board at the East Admin building, is that legally sufficient? Is that the process? Still, I'm still not quite sure. So there are a lot of ways to hide behind lack of clarity in communications. And I agree that having an opportunity to bring this forward and it to be an exchange between the public and your communications team could go a long way to clear up some of the confusions and have a healthier relationship that in the long term can prevent the negativity and those adverse conflicts like what we saw with the Land Development Code. I appreciate that there's now some versioning on the Municode. I think when we bring ordinances forward, absolutely the old ordinances should be there with strike-throughs. I've heard this come up in committee meetings in reviewing the information that's being brought forward. And so, yeah, I do think that this is a necessary conversation, but it's not to take further control of the messaging. It's to look at it as an exchange between the users and the public and the government. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak in public comment on this item before we take a vote? Okay, I see no further speakers. Commissioner Pendergrass?
Mr. County Manager, do you have any questions or any other, this clarification, my request was, and I think that's the board's motion second, was like how the board projects this messaging based upon the actions of the board, correct? It has nothing to do with public comment or public notice or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
So we're good there. And I just want to say, I didn't say earlier, and when I think I was earlier about when I say what creates headlines and what's going to get people's attention, because there are so many different, you can use any type of social media you can, Instagram, Facebook, news breaks, whatever it may be to get the message out there. We're going to have to look at targeting more of a aggressive headline. If you want to get that information, you can't just say, for example, Lee County adopts new LDC. Well, nobody's going to read that. Lee County protects taxpayers or protects property owners by doing this. You have to structure something like this. We have to, otherwise it's not going to work. You're not going to have to go out there. If somebody writes a article saying we raise taxes, we're going to have to come back and say Lee County lower tax, or Lee County, or this group said a false statement. We have to call them out for it. If they make a false allegation, we have to call them out for that. If that's the board's, you know, we have to look at, otherwise you're not going to correct this, and this message is not going to be consistent enough.
Mr. Harner?
Mr. Chair, thank you. If it would please the board, we would like to go ahead and work on a plan and bring that back to you at an appropriate amount of time. That way you can review it and give us any more detailed information you'd like to on that plan.
We could even potentially talk more about it at the strategic planning retreat
Correct.
or something like that, too.
Okay.
Very good. All right, any objections to the motion? I see no objections. That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, that concludes your commissioner items?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Pendergrass? Great. Commissioner Sandelli, any items? Commissioner Ruane, any items? I had one item, and this should be an easy one. So the Lee County Housing Authority has reached out. They are requesting 2,000 emergency housing choice vouchers. I think we all know about the affordable housing problems that we've faced here in the county for several years. Hurricane Ian and the loss of housing only exacerbated it. So the Lee County Housing Authority is reaching out, and they are asking for 2,000 emergency housing choice vouchers for Lee County. They asked if the county commission would send a letter to Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Rick Scott supporting their request. So I bring that forward for your consideration this morning. Okay, so
Absolutely, I'll make that motion.
motion for signing on to the support letter from Commissioner Wayne, and the second's from, was it from Commissioner Pendergrass?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Do we have any discussion on that? Okay, let me ask, would anybody like to speak in public comment before we take a vote on that? Okay, I see no speakers, so we'll come back to the board. Any further discussion? Any objection? No objection, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you, folks. Let's move to committee appointments. Commissioner Greenwell, any committee appointments?
No, not today.
Okay, Commissioner Pendergrass?
None.
I have none today either. Commissioner Sandelli? Commissioner Wing? No committee appointments today. Okay, very good. Let's move to county manager items. Mr. Harner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have no items today.
All right. Mr. Wesh, you are recognized for county attorney items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a brief update. Commissioners, in the past, you charged our office with moving forward to protect the residents of Lee County from the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program, otherwise known as PACE. One of the recent aspects that we're going to undertake is join with Leon County and several other counties in a court filing to have the bond validation decision that led to this current crisis set aside. Just want to keep the board apprised of that, and then also extend my thanks to Noel Branding, our tax collector, who has stood toe-to-toe with us in this battle against this predatory program. So no action needed, just a brief update. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for the update. All right, at this time, we'll move to public presentation of matters by citizens. No? All right, are there any other speakers who would like to speak in public presentation of matters by citizens? Just raise your hand and we'll call you forward. Oh, yes, sir, come on forward.
I do apologize if I spoke out of turn, but, you know, just a few minutes ago, but we're only allowed 3 minutes, so if I can get something in, I'm going to do it. And it was to praise Mr. Cecil Pendergrass, his years as a cop, as an advocate for the homeless and that. And my thing is, I would like, you know, I don't know who to go to in the county. I know Steve Belden is the guy that does the stuff in the city. But knowing what the county owns and get the advocates to see what his surplus is, or it's just sitting, so it could be utilized as permanent housing, places that could be making revenue to bring in funds to create affordable housing, paying the fiddler, as you say, you know, because nothing is cheap, you know, the cost to build and that. So working together, county, city, and advocates, and the public, so everybody's knowledgeable what's going on. You know, there's so much property out there, I don't know. One side, the blue is, what is it, city, the green is county. You know, when you see the street signs, there's a lot of stuff that just sits, you know, that could be utilized and at an affordable rate, you know, getting people into some form of housing until they can get into the ideal housing. That's why the youth hostel or boarding houses, buildings that people could stay at a reasonable price, but it's going into a fund. It's not going in everybody's pocket. Yeah, you're going to pay somebody something, a stipend or something to help out, but basically this need is very urgent. the need to be sheltered and not be subject to the elements. I thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak in public comment today? This is the one time when you can speak on items that were not on the agenda. All right, I see no speakers, so that'll close the public presentation of matters by citizens. At this time, there's no further business before us for the morning. We're going to recess and reconvene at 5:05 p.m. for the final budget public hearing here in these chambers. Thanks.